Do you know how much light battery your Guardian actually has? Do you know why Osiris used supers like he's got a cheat code while we're out here waiting for our cooldowns? Can a ghost just swap out Guardians? And how does your ghost bring you back to life? And from where? In this video I wanted to dive into the mechanics and chaos that is the light, and how Guardians across every class, across time and across paracoils of space channel it, burn it, and sometimes lose it forever. Let's start with the basics. The kind Destiny never actually gives you. The Traveler is something like a generator, a cosmic bank of light. The Ghost is your charging adapter, your Wi-Fi to the Traveler's power grid. And you, the Guardian, are the smartphone. How much charge you hold depends on your internal capacity. When your Ghost reses you, it recharges you from the Traveler, and as long as that connection's intact, your light replenishes. Simple, right? Except it's not really, because Guardians aren't all equal. Ikora doesn't need a recharge timer. Osiris, pre-Sagira's death, could spam abilities like he was in a Mayhem playlist with an infinite super cheese. The man made light clones of himself in the Battle of Six Fronts, all of which could use full supers independently, and some of his echoes still roam around the Infinite Forest, searching for Saint 14 to this very day. Zavala tanked Red Legion artillery with Ward of Dawn back to back, so the idea that all Guardians use the light in equal measure, it's absolute fiction, total BS. We're told when a ghost finds you, it was searching for someone with a specific light frequency. That frequency is you. Some ghosts took centuries, crow's glint, to find a compatible Guardian. Even our own ghost tried to res Master Chief before us, but he just wasn't interested. They aren't interchangeable adapters, they're tuned to your soul. That's why when your ghost dies, you're on a ticking clock. You've got whatever light is left in your battery, and when that runs dry, you're done. No respawns, you will age out until your final death. The Red War demonstrated that mostly to us. This is also well known by even the Vex. Way back when, they built a singular Vex mine specifically to track and drain Saint 14's light frequency, just to keep him dead. That wasn't a repeatable process. It burned so many resources, they could only ever do it once. But it worked until we went off and fully broke time itself to bring him back. Hold up. If you dig these deep lore dives, will you do me a solid and sub to the channel or like the video to help me making these videos I do love to do? It would be so much appreciated. Now, back to how ghosts resurrect you, and from where. In the Ghost Story series, a lore book from Forsaken, No Res for the Weary discusses how ghost resurrection is sometimes not possible. It touches on fragmentation and conditions where resurrection fails. Still, the idea was embraced by fans. What if ghosts are more than just connectors to one life? What if they tap into infinite versions of you to rebuild your perfect self? Certain members of a cult, future war cult, have their own specific interpretation of this process. When you bring him back, you must have a template, an image to provide you with the information you need. Where do you find that template? Simply in a neighbouring timeline, a place where he is still alive and intact, and wherever there is great danger, wherever the probability of death is too high, then those timelines become scarce and hard to reach, and so you find the zones where Guardians cannot easily be remade. This is the only theory offered in-game or lore, and I think it's a pretty cool one, even if we'll never know if it's actually true or not. Ghosts aren't just resurrection tools. They're sentient agents of the light. Each built for and bound to a specific guardian frequency, but not before interpreting the complex morality and compatibility of their charge. Most ghosts never change once bonded, but occasionally profound exceptions arise. Take Shin Malphur, for example, resurrected as a baby by some ghost who then died. He grew up without light until Jaren Ward's ghost, unable to restore Ward after his final death by Thorn's darkness, chose to adopt Shin, recognizing the same light signature. This is extraordinary. Ghosts usually cannot bond after having revived once, but here Jaren's ghost crossed that boundary, possibly to sustain Shin's fledgling potential. Contrast this with the many ghosts who refuse to resurrect their guardians, like the one who abandoned a hive-corrupted soldier, or the ghost of a guardian stranded aboard the Almighty from No Rest for the Weary. Even Don Quixote's ghost reportedly refused its knight, underlining that ghosts possess free will. Their decision blends capacity, resonance, and moral judgment. When a guardian re-emerges, the ghost infuses them with Traveler's Light, rebooting their body and memory. But this bond is fragile and fiercely personal. If the ghost dies or refuses to res, the guardian is left with a finite reserve of light, and eventually their story will end. When first brought back to life, you're not a titan, warlock, or hunter, you're just a spark. The light manifests through instincts. A ghost might revive a mute ancient soldier who doesn't know how to hold a gun. Over time, the way you wield the light determines your class. There's a Titan story of a guardian being brought back for the first time and being thrown into battle before they even know their own name. So essentially, you were a wholesale warrior of the light. In lore, you get the feeling that hunters are the most instinctive wielders of the light. Where warlocks study it and titans literally embody it, hunters feel it. They channel light, not through discipline or doctrine, but through reflex, intuition, and survival. This isn't just a flavoured text quirk. It's reflected in the way their abilities, their weapons, and even their movement tie into the raw, untamed edge of paracausality. You'll notice that hunters rarely talk about the light the way warlocks do. You don't hear them speak of the Traveler's Grace or metaphysical waveforms of light. They talk about the quiet, the gut instinct. That silence before the shot. That's because for a hunter, light is an extension of will, not knowledge. It doesn't flow from study or practice. It emerges the moment you decide not to die. Hunters weaponize that survival instinct, and they shape the light into tools of precision, agility, and lethality. Hunters channel light through their hands, their eyes, their movement, and most importantly, their weapons. Look at Golden Gun. It's not some radiant invocation or celestial nova. It's a gun. It's a dead man's last bullet carved out of burning solar light in the shape of a Tex Mechanica hand cannon. You can almost hear the click of the hammer before it fires. This isn't a coincidence. Hunters don't build light constructs like titans or mediate on warps like warlocks. They manifest the light as something lethal and immediate, something a loner can use at range, in a pinch, and without backup. Blade Barrage, Arc Staff, Silence and Squall, every super a hunter uses is precise, decisive, and personal. Even their Void subclass is about fading into nothing and striking from nowhere. And that reflects how hunters have always survived, not through overwhelming force or divine power, but through timing, stealth, and deadly efficiency. In gameplay, you feel this philosophy. Hunters are the most weapon synergistic class in the game. Where Titans create zones, or power, or Warlocks amplify with rifts, Hunters are all about amplifying themselves through gunplay. From Knock 'em Down, which resets supers and buffs precision shots, to Marksman's Dodge, which reloads your weapon, their abilities don't stand apart from their guns. They serve their guns. Their entire toolkit is designed to let them keep shooting, dodging, and surviving longer than they really should. Even lore reflects this. Cade 6 was a crack shot even before he was a Guardian. Shin Malphur, the man with the first golden gun, literally turned the light into a weapon of vengeance. Andalbrask fought dirty and died laughing, clutching that sniper. Anna Bray reverse-engineered Golden Age weapon tech into light-infused rifles. These aren't saints. They're not scholars. They're gunslingers, trackers, assassins, people who understood that in a galaxy full of hive gods and time-travelling machines, sometimes the light needs a little violence. And then there's the deep stuff, the metaphysics. The light, at its core, is about will made manifest. Hunters are the purest expression of this idea. They act before thinking. They move before speaking. They pull the trigger because they know it's time, not because they calculated it. That's the raw per-causal truth. Light bends to intent, and no one's intent is sharper, more focused, or more lethal than a hunter that's locked in. They don't have to explain it. They just line up the shot, and the universe agrees. So when somebody asks, why do hunters lean so hard into their weapons, the answer is pretty simple. Because the gun is the tool through which they assert their will. It's not a crutch, it's not a backup plan. It is the light focused into a bullet, a blade, or a storm, and in their hands. That's all it ever needed to be. If the light is will made manifest, Titans are the wall that wills itself not to fall. They don't whisper to the light like Warlocks. They don't finesse it like Hunters. Titans throw themselves into it. Fists first, shoulders second, questions never. Their entire relationship with the light is embodied, physical and intensely contextual. They don't float above the battlefield, they become part of it. Titans channel the light through their armour, their mass, their presence. When you look at their supers, Fists of Havoc, Thundercrash, Sentinel Shield, Burning Maul, they're not elegant tools. They're declarations of existence. I'm here, and you will break before I do. That's what Titan Light is. Not just a weapon, but a statement of identity. This is especially clear in Wei Ning, this original Sunbreaker, who didn't meditate on her solar light. She punched a mountain until it moved for her. Shaxx created a crater just by landing. Zavala during the Red War summoned a Ward of Dawn in freefall with no ghost, no power source, and still cratered the ground with a bubble that shouldn't have been possible. These aren't metaphors. These are Titans saying, my body is the instrument of the light. But here's the deeper piece. Titans don't just use the light to fight. They use it to hold the line. They are defenders not just of people, but of meaning. Titans build, they guard. They stand between collapse and civilization, even lower factions like the Pilgrim Guard. And the Firebreak Order aren't about violence for violence sake. They were structured belief systems centered around protecting humanity's future with their own flesh and light. Even in-game, this comes through. Titan class abilities create zones of control, rally barricades, overshields, helms of Saint 14 that blind enemies when they dare enter the ward, while Warlocks amplify allies and Hunters dominate through movement and precision. Titans anchor the field. They force context. That's their power. They don't respond to the battlefield, they define it. And the armour? It's not just protection, it's conduction. Titans channel their light through the architecture of their own armor. Their entire silhouette is built for reinforcement. Void manifests as shields, Arc becomes muscle, Solar becomes fury, and across all subclasses their relationship to light is physical first, metaphysical second. They're the type of paracausal users who don't ponder what light means, they show you what light does. Even when they fall, it's significant. In the Cradle lore, a Titan named Tycho III dies fighting the Hive on Titan's moon. She doesn't ask for help. She charges the enemy with a line that still resonates. I'm the wall. That's what the light gives Titans. The ability to be the thing that doesn't break when everything else does. It's the reason the Stoneboard Order carry pieces of the original last city wall around with them, demonstrating the connection and commitment to the people that are the wall. They are the protector. But there's nuance too. Some Titans are philosophers. Saint 14, for example, speaks softly. He talks about light in terms of hope, of duty. He doesn't want to just fight. He wants to build a world worth defending. Even Saladin, brutal as he is, fights because he believes that without strength there can be no survival. These aren't just brawlers. They're believers, builders, guardians in the literal sense of the word. So when we ask how do Titans use the light, the real answer is through the body, through context, and through intent. They don't bend light into clever tools or colourful constructs. They wield it into their own form. They throw it with their entire weight. They become the light in motion. And that's why when a Titan hits the field, the rules change. Not because they're flashy, but because they refuse to move. And that's what makes them terrifying. When Titans embody the light and hunters express it through instinct, Warlocks understand it. Or at least, they try to. Their light flows through the bond, that symbolic class item that represents their chosen discipline, their commitment to study. It's not a decoration, it's a conduit of will, infused with purpose. Their entire identity is built around this core principle: to know is to become. Take Osiris. He doesn't just throw supers, he unravels timelines. He created projections of himself, entire paracausal clones capable of using light independently. He once held off an entire Cabal fleet, solo, with only his light, and a war of attrition fought across multiple timelines. This wasn't brute force. It was an application of light through theory, understanding, and supreme control. Warlocks approach the light like it's a language. Each subclass is a dialect. Arc becomes motion and thought, pure neurological potential. Solar becomes radiation and healing, life itself distilled. Void becomes absence, gravity, and the inward pull of the mind. Their grenades don't just explode, they unbind. Their rifts alter the reality of their surroundings, healing wounds or amplifying force through sheer paracausal will. And what about Ikora Rey, the most famous Voidwalker? The lore tells us she once threw Nova bombs until the sky went dark. She doesn't wear void like a cloak, she commands it like a scholar armed with a thesis written in fire. That tells us something fundamental. For Warlocks, the light is not just fuel, it's identity, it's mastery. They're not always safe wielders of it either. Toland the Shattered literally entered the Ascendant Plane with his mind, foregoing his body. Through his understanding of Hive, Death Song, and Void Light, his obsession shattered his form but transcended his life. He became light, or something adjacent to it. For Warlocks, that's the goal, to evolve beyond the need for tools, to become the principle. This is reflected in how Warlocks are trained. Lower entries suggest they go through schools of thought. The Praxic Order believes in using the light as a weapon for justice. The Thanatnauts believe in learning through death, killing themselves repeatedly to map the afterlife with light. These aren't subclasses. These are philosophical sects, arguing about what the light means. And that's the key. Warlocks don't treat light as a resource, they treat it as a question. Titans say stand strong, Hunters say move fast, Warlocks say why? And in asking that, they unlock new ways to use the light, not just in combat, but in cosmic terms. Look at Well of Radiance. It's not just for healing, it's sacred. It's a literal altar of solar light, a holy construct formed by will. Starfire Protocol doesn't just give you 2 grenades, it gives you fusion, feedback. A loop of light that grows more powerful the smarter you are about your positioning. Warlock builds aren't brute force. They're arcane systems, loaded with feedback loops, elemental triggers, and conditional enhancements. Light as an absolute architecture. Even gameplay reflects this. Warlocks gain amplification through intellect, not armor. Their class ability, the Rift, doesn't protect or evade. It alters the space around them. They turn reality into their thesis. A Titan builds a wall, a Hunter throws a knife, a Warlock rewrites the floor plan. But there is a darker edge too. Warlocks are often the ones who walk closest to that forbidden line. They're the ones who touched the darkness first, who stared into the deep and tried to map it. Why? Because to know the light fully, they believe, you must understand its shadow. Their curiosity makes them dangerous and essential. It's why the Warlock orders get banned, like the Cryptocrons, or how close the Thanatnauts get to being banned by the Vanguard for seeking insight into unknown futures. So when you ask, how do Warlocks use the light? Answer is layered. They use it through intellect, philosophy, and will. They shape it with symbols and mental frameworks. They believe the light is a question waiting to be answered, and sometimes, in trying to answer it, they break the rules entirely. But here's where the game meets lore and falls apart. In the sandbox, all Guardians get equal supers. 3 minutes, sometimes faster, subclass trees, damage numbers, it's balanced for PvP and raids. But in the lore, the differences are staggering. Osiris using multiple supers in seconds, Ikora wiping out waves of Hive with the chain of Nova Bombs. These aren't mechanical quirks, they're examples of how personal mastery, mental discipline, and a connection to the Traveller define what a Guardian can do, and it may answer that massive question that players tend to ask about why we don't have other NPCs help us out on field missions that much. Maybe to avoid this power dynamic? Even though the young wolf is meant to be the most powerful Guardian in all of history. When you die in a darkness zone, your ghost can't pull light from the Traveller. The signal is blocked. Even if your ghost is intact, it can't reach the source. That's not just a gameplay mechanic, it's a spiritual metaphor. You're cut off from grace, alone, mortal. And that's the ultimate threat of the darkness. Not that it kills you, but that it severs your access to resurrection. So is light more like a mythological force from Star Wars? Kind of. Every Guardian seems to have an inherent connection strength, and it's unclear if that's natural born or trained. The Vanguard would tell you it's discipline and purpose. The Crucible tells us it's reflexes. The lore tells us it might just be the fate that Guardians make for themselves, not being bound to a pattern of predetermined destiny. And weapons? Well, that's a whole other frontier. Some weapons are literally conduits of your light, like exotics that recharge your abilities, or armor that amplifies a subclass. Titans wearing the Heart of Inmost Light literally charge abilities by using abilities. Warlocks with Controverse Hold can turn grenades into bombs of regeneration. Hunters with Starry Scales devour orbs. and drop god tier golden guns. The gear you wear is a kind of personal amplifier, but it still draws from your inner light. At the end of the day, Guardians aren't batteries. They're reflections of their beliefs, instincts and will. Their light isn't just energy, it's identity, and like identity, it can be suppressed, stolen, or even weaponized. So the next time you pop a super, remember, in the lore you're an average light bearer, but the legends, they don't wait for cooldowns. They are the storm.
Wow, this has just been such a pleasure. I'm such a lucky boy. I can't wait to go home